She never thought you would walk away. And that silence you chose, that calm, quiet dignity, it changed everything. If this is your first time here, take a moment and subscribe. This is for men who are done explaining themselves, men who let their actions speak, men who are ready to understand their own power. Stay close, because what you are about to hear might be one of the most important things you hear this year. Now let's talk about what really happened. She hurt you, maybe she ignored you, maybe she disrespected you, maybe she treated your kindness like weakness. Maybe she walked away thinking you would chase her, thinking you would beg, thinking you would break. But you didn't. You went quiet, not because you had nothing to say, but because you had everything to say and chose not to. And that one decision, that silence, changed something inside her mind that she still hasn't fully understood. This is not about games. This is not about manipulation. This is deeper. This is about psychology, about attraction, about something built deep inside human nature. The man who stays silent after being hurt is not weak. He is the man who finally found himself. And she feels that, even from far away. She may not understand it, but something inside her knows she walked away from something real. Let's start from the beginning. Let's talk about identity. Most men, when they get hurt, do one of two things. They explode or they collapse. They either get angry, argue, and react, or they shrink, apologize, and blame themselves. But both reactions come from the same place. A man looking for permission. Permission to feel, permission to matter, permission to exist in someone else's eyes. But the man who goes silent, the man who feels the pain, and still walks with calm, steady energy. He is not looking for permission anymore. He stopped waiting for someone else to validate him. And that shift, that inner change, people can feel it. Even if they can't explain it, she felt it. She felt the exact moment you stopped needing her approval. And that scared her because she was used to being needed. She was used to having control over how you felt. But now that control is gone. And when she tried to reach for it, there was nothing there. That's when something inside her started to panic. Not loudly, not obviously, but quietly, late at night, in between her thoughts, in moments where she expected peace, but found confusion instead. This is the truth most people never talk about. When a man finds himself again, the woman who underestimated him starts to question everything. She starts to wonder, did I make a mistake? Was he more valuable than I thought? And she can't fully let it go, not because she is weak, but because something inside her recognizes what you became. Now let's talk about attraction, real attraction, not the kind built on chasing, texting, and trying harder. Real attraction comes from self-control, from calmness, from a man who knows who he is. Most men think attraction comes from doing more, calling more, texting more, giving more, and yes, sometimes that works for a short time, but it builds the wrong thing. It builds dependency, not desire. It builds pressure, not attraction. The man who does less, who moves at his own pace, who doesn't rush to fill silence, who doesn't chase what walks away, that man becomes something different. He becomes a question in her mind, someone she keeps thinking about, someone she doesn't fully understand. He becomes the story she didn't finish, the choice she keeps going back to. This is not manipulation. This is what happens when a man chooses himself. You didn't play hard to get. You became someone worth getting. And those are not the same thing. One is acting, the other is transformation. She is not pulled back by a strategy. She is pulled back by the man you became. A man who doesn't need to raise his voice. A man who doesn't need to explain his pain. A man who looked at everything that happened and decided to build something stronger from it. That man is powerful, not because he tries to be, but because he simply is. Now let's go deeper. Let's talk about self-respect. Self-respect is not just an attitude. It is not something you wear in public to look confident. Self-respect is private. It is the standard you keep when nobody is watching. It is the boundary you hold because you know your worth. Most men were taught how to provide, they were taught how to protect, they were taught how to endure, but they were never taught how to honor themselves. So when someone hurts them, they stay. They excuse it, they make it smaller than it really was, they go back and try again. Not because the situation deserved another chance, but because they never learned that sometimes the strongest thing a man can do is walk away. The man who stays where he is, constantly reduced, is not being loyal. He is afraid of emptiness, afraid of starting over, afraid that without her he will not know who he is. But the man who leaves quietly, or suffers quietly and rebuilds quietly, that man learns something most men never learn. He learns that he is enough, not perfect, not flawless, but enough, complete, capable, worthy of something real. And once a man truly learns that, he cannot unlearn it. He carries it into every room, every conversation, every silence. And people feel it. She feels it too. The man who once needed her attention no longer depends on it. And strangely, that makes her want to give it. That is the quiet truth of masculine self-respect. The less a man needs approval, the more he naturally commands it, not by forcing it, not by performing for it, just by becoming someone whose own reflection is worth respecting. Now let's talk about purpose, because this is where many men get lost. When a relationship ends or when someone hurts them deeply, a lot of men take all that energy and pour it into overthinking. They replay every conversation, they study old messages, they search for the exact moment it all went wrong, and they do this for months, sometimes years, not because they are weak, but because they care deeply and nobody taught them how to redirect that energy. That is where purpose comes in. Not distraction, not replacement, purpose. When a man finds what he is here to build, what he is here to create, what kind of mark he wants to leave on this world, he no longer has room for obsession. He has no space left to keep wondering what she is doing, who she is with, or whether she still thinks about him, because he is too busy becoming the man he was meant to be. And that quiet process, that daily process of growth, is more attractive than anything he could have said during the pain. She does not miss the version of you that needed her. She misses the version of you she only saw in flashes, the version that laughed freely, the version that moved with certainty, the version that made her feel like she was beside a man who knew where he was going. That version was always there. It was just buried under the pressure of trying to keep her. And when you stopped trying to keep her, you found yourself again. And that self is powerful. Now let's talk about grounding. Grounded men are rare. Not because men cannot become grounded, but because the world does not always teach men how to feel pain without either escaping it or exploding from it. Grounding is not pretending you feel nothing. It is not suppression. It is not fake toughness. Grounding is feeling everything and still moving with intention. It is being in pain and still choosing your next step carefully. It is being disappointed and still showing up the next morning. It is being betrayed and still refusing to become bitter. That last part is one of the hardest, because bitterness feels like protection. It feels like a wall. It feels like a way to make sure no one hurts you the same way again. But bitterness is not protection. It is a prison. A bitter man is not hurting the person who hurt him. He is hurting every good thing that could have come next. A grounded man feels the pain, he does not deny it. He sits with it, he learns from it, he takes what is useful from it, and then he lets it go. Not because he forgot, but because he decided his future matters more than his wound. That is grounding. That is the kind of inner work people may not see right away, but they feel it. She felt it when you stopped arguing. She felt it when you stopped explaining yourself. She felt it when you looked at her without desperation in your eyes. And in that moment, she saw something different. Steadiness, depth, a man who could no longer be thrown off balance by her moods, a man who had finally planted his feet, and that image stayed with her. Here's an uncomfortable truth. Most people only understand the value of something after it is gone, and after they see what that loss created. She did not fully see what she had while she had it. That is not always cruelty. Sometimes it is just human nature. People get used to what is familiar. They stop seeing it clearly. But once it is gone, once there is silence where there used to be presence, everything becomes sharper. And then she starts remembering, not just the conflict, not just the frustration. She remembers the way you looked at her. She remembers what it felt like to be chosen. She remembers the quiet moments she barely noticed back then, but now cannot stop thinking about. And she wonders if you still think about her. She wonders if you are okay. She wonders if your silence means you moved on, or if it means you are still healing. And because she does not know, because your silence gives her nothing solid to hold on to, that uncertainty becomes powerful. Silence here is not emptiness. It is presence, quiet, dignified, steady. And it says more than any speech she expected from you. You were not silent because you gave up. You were silent because you respected yourself too much to beg for something that should have been given freely. That matters. In the long run, that matters a lot. The man who begs often loses respect, but the man who stays silent, the man who keeps his dignity, he becomes someone she cannot stop thinking about. Not because he was cold, not because he was trying to play a role, but because he was whole. And a woman does not easily forget a man who feels whole. Now let me speak to the part of you that still hurts. Because even if you made the right choice, even if you stayed calm, even if you walked away with dignity, pain can still remain. There is still a part of you that wishes it had ended differently. A part of you that still wonders if there was something else you could have said. A part of you that still reaches for the phone sometimes and almost types the message. That part of you is not weak. That part of you is human. Do not be ashamed of him. He is the part of you that loved. And loving is not weakness. Loving deeply, honestly, without pretending, is one of the bravest things a man can do. The pain you feel matches the depth of what you gave, so do not deny it. But do not let it write the next chapter for you. The pain belongs to the past. The silence is the bridge. And on the other side of that bridge is the man you are becoming. A man who has been tested, a man who has been refined, a man who now knows what he will accept and what he will not. A man who understands the difference between love and the need to be needed. A man who knows that choosing himself is not selfish. It is the foundation of everything real he will ever build. Now let's talk about what comes next, because this was never only about her. It was always about you, about the version of you that exists after this pain. The version of you that wakes up one morning and does not check his phone first. The version of you that fills his days with things that matter. The version of you that walks into a room without looking for her. The version of you that becomes so focused on building something real that the old wound becomes a scar. And scars do not mean weakness. They mean you survived. And surviving with dignity is not a small thing. It is everything. The man who walks through fire and does not turn to ash becomes different. People feel it. Not because he talks about what he survived, but because they can see it in his eyes. They can tell he went through something and came out stronger. She will see that too, whether she says it or not, whether she ever reaches out or not. She will know that your silence was not the silence of a man who lost. It was the silence of a man who chose himself. And that choice changed everything. Now hear this clearly. You deserve someone who does not make you feel like a problem. You deserve someone who sees your silence as depth, not coldness. Someone who sees your stability as strength, not boredom. Someone who sees your loyalty as a gift, not something ordinary. There are women in this world who understand the value of a man like you. Women who know what they want. Women who are not addicted to chaos. Women who want something real, something calm, something honest, something steady. That man is you. You are not too much. You are not too serious. You are not too deep. You are simply not for everyone. And the sooner you understand that, the sooner you stop shrinking yourself to fit people who cannot hold you. The right person will not ask you to become smaller. The right person will stand beside your quiet strength and feel safe there. That is what is waiting for you. But first, you have to let go of what was wrong for you, so you can make room for what is right. And yes, that is hard, because what was wrong for you often felt right in the beginning. Maybe she was part of your growth. Maybe she was not the destination, but the turning point, not the whole story, but the chapter that made the next one possible. Honor that. Do not carry bitterness. Do not carry resentment. Take what the experience taught you and build with it. The silence she gave you became your strength. The pain she left you with became your clarity. The absence she created became the space where you found yourself. That is not the end of your story. That is the beginning of the most important one. The story of a man who was hurt and stayed silent. A man who chose himself over chaos. A man who built his life with quiet discipline. A man who learned that the best revenge is not revenge at all. It is becoming someone your younger self would admire. Someone your future self will thank you for. That man is here. He has always been here. He was just waiting for the noise to die down so he could finally hear himself again. And now you can hear him. Now you know what to do. You already know what kind of man you want to be. The path is in front of you. The noise is behind you. And the silence she could not forget. That silence is your foundation now. Build on it. Build slowly. Build carefully. Build like a man who knows that what he is creating will last. Because it will. You will last. If this reached something real in you today, subscribe. Not for quick motivation you forget tomorrow, but for reminders of who you already are. For the kind of truth that sounds like silence and feels like solid ground. If you want, send the next script and I'll rewrite it in the same style straight through.